And we're back with another episode of NBA Observations. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from NBA Observations and the Lakers Fast Break. Truly cannot thank you enough for joining us. Please like and subscribe to go ahead and get the latest notifications on when we go live with the latest NBA Observations. If you are a member, you get this first before anyone else. If you want to become a member and get my shows, including this, the Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and more, go ahead and you get it first by being a member for just $2.99 a month. That price is not going up anytime soon. So $2.99 a month gets you all these shows early right here for you at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. But it wouldn't be an NBA Observations without some good observer. And there's been really just a great time all season long with this guy. He is a good man indeed. It is the guy behind so much of what he does with the Suave Report. It is Calif Poncy. Calif, great to hear you back with us. The New Century Press as well. You took off a week, but I want to tell you something before you go ahead. A little bit about you. Something I found out a little tidbit about you.
I know what this is.
All right, because I heard from a little bee buzzing around, a little birdie, said it should be known that Calif did make it to the finals of the three-point competition at Russell Westbrook's basketball camp back in the day. Did you, by the way, teach him how to shoot threes?
It doesn't seem like it rubbed off on him. No.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to ask because I would think it would have been the other way around on that case. But he went to your camp, not the other way around. But he was no Glenn Rice, but he was scorching the net that day. I wonder who it was that might know about that. It's just my inside source from one fellow journalist to another.
Yeah, I think I might have a good idea here. Inside sources.
Okay.
But yeah, that is a true event. I did win the. Now I'm going to tell the whole story here. I did win the catch and shoot. So we had like teams at Westbrook's camp. I think it was right after Durant had left OKC. So it was like right before I went to 8th grade. And we broke up into teams with a couple of, Russ's friends or whatever who were there, former teammates who were being coaches. And my team had like people from all over the country that had traveled there. And I'm sure that, they had people watching them there. And then there was me, who 5'8" from Iowa, not an athletic bone in my body at all. And so we made the first, there was 2 rounds. The first round was like catch and shoot. It was like, just, you don't got to move. You don't have to chase the ball. Just stand there, catch it, and fire. And I just think something that never has happened to me again at any level of basketball I've played. I just made probably 12 or 13 threes in this little span, I imagine. 1 for my team. And then I was one of 6 finalists at the whole camp. But when you got there, the whole crowd's watching you and you have to go get your own rebound. And I was done. I was a catch and shoot specialist. I think I made 3 of the 20 shots or whatever when the pressure was on. But I did catch fire at Russell Westbrook's camp, and I did technically win a basketball competition of some kind in my life. So now to any listeners who question my basketball acumen, you do know I have reached some high heights in my life.
There you go. Absolutely impressive indeed. I just want to thank that special source that I have for that information provided indeed. But it is, of course, NBA Observations. Great to have you back in the saddle, my friend. It is Calif Poncy along with me, Gerald Glassford. Hopefully I could get Legend on and some others here in future NBA Observations episodes as well. We'll always try to keep that flowing, but you and I here on almost every week basis. Before we get into it, actually we want to get into it with one of your first topics was the MVP. And well, right now, because of the injury to Nikola Jokic, who in my estimation, at the time of his injury, had just taken back that MVP front runner. He had like I think a 50-point triple double, just
Yeah,
like right around.
crazy game against Minnesota.
Yeah, he had they were close enough to where you could say it was good enough to give him the nod at that point if the voting had stopped right there. But of course, he had the injury. And credit to Denver, they have played really well without him. So much so that we just spent our entire post game talking about that gap now shortening to 5.5 games as of this recording, with San Antonio and Denver behind OKC. With that, though, the clear cut is something that's out there as far as an MVP is concerned. There's no challenging it at this point. If somehow if Jokic comes back and they bridge that 5.5 games, I guess we could revisit this conversation. But now, like you said in your comments to me in the DM, it is SGA's MVP to lose. But the story on the rest of the team, that's a different matter entirely.
Yes, I mean, I really just kind of wanted to talk about this just to, just the nature of how SGA is kind of, he just kind of, you kind of cruise through the season. He doesn't get talked about a lot because the Thunder are so good and he's so good. And he's just having another awesome season. I think over this season, I know he's one of like 6 or 7 players ever that in that list. It's like Wilt and Shaq, who's averaging 30 or more points and shooting 60% on twos. And this is a guard, who takes really hard mid-range jump shots. That's a lot of his shot diet. And he's just doing, I just think that Jokic rightfully is discussed in a way, and I do think Jokic is the best player in the world. I'd not want to dispute that. But Jokic is kind of already regarded as this unicorn all-time great guy and he's already kind of, I think, awarded with his place in the all-time pantheon of the NBA, which he should be again. But I think when that happens, the other great players in the league at the time kind of take a back seat a little bit. I think we kind of saw this with LeBron until Curry. Curry just kind of made it undeniable and really became the story of the league there for a few years. I just think maybe in the moment, guys like Kevin Durant and James Harden were maybe a little underappreciated historically just because of how clear it was that LeBron was one of the 2 best players of all time. And I don't think Shea's on that plane, obviously, yet, or if he will ever get there, but he's there. It's pretty undeniable at this point. And now this is his 4th year in a row that he's just really the most efficient guard scorer we've ever seen, even more efficient than Michael Jordan, which here nor there, however you want to value that. But the what he does is pretty ridiculous. And this really came to my mind because before OKC lost to Toronto yesterday, he had 40 and 47 in 2 games in a row. And for those who aren't really watching OKC every game, the whole team is hurt right now. I think with Case and Wallace injured, they're down 7 of their 15 rotation players. They're just so hurt. And AJ Mitchell got hurt 2 games ago against Milwaukee, and Shea had 40 against Milwaukee. And when AJ Mitchell goes out, for those who don't watch on an every game basis, it might just seem like, oh, cool, OKC, this is their whole superpower, right? They're so deep and they have so many good players. And they do, and they still really have a pretty a good enough rotation even now that would be in the top half of the league, probably, maybe not now with Case and Wallace out. But when he goes out, there's even with the good role players OKC had left, like Dort, and Chet Holmgren is not a role player; he's an all-star, all-NBA type guy, but Chet Holmgren and Kenrich Williams, guys like that who are pretty good, but none of them are offensive. They're just not creators on the offensive end. And so when Jalen Williams and AJ Mitchell are out, the whole offensive workload for OKC in terms of creation is just all on Shea. And the teams know that. If you watch the last 3 games, the Rockets he's seen this before, but the Rockets really reintroduced it a few games ago where teams just send 2 at Shea right when he crosses half court and make the other Thunder players beat him. He's seen it in the playoffs. And that's a lot of why OKC's lost the last 2 games is just guys outside of Shea have not been able to be creative enough offensively to really fuel an efficient offense when he's off the court. But the things he's doing when everyone has no one else to key on other than him, and the fact that he's doing it so efficiently, because that's in my opinion. Now, obviously, like I cover OKC, whatever you want to think, how that changes my perspective. That's kind of the difference between him and Luka to me, and why I think Shea is a better player, in my opinion. Now that's debatable. Luka's a far more explosive scorer. Like somewhat, Shea's never going to have a game where he has 60, 10, and 12. It's just not. He's in Luka. I would be shocked because that's a historic stat line. But like if I looked, I wouldn't be like, no way. If anyone's going to do that, it's Jokic and Luka. That's just the type of explosive offensive talents they are. But Luka's inefficiency has really come into light the last few weeks. He just has a lot of games where he's not the most efficient. And for Shea, I think it's really come into focus these last 3 games that he's staying as efficient as he has been for the last 3 or 4 years, and he's doing it with really no offensive help. And so while OKC's lost 2 of their last 3 and only beat Milwaukee, who I think we'll go into and talk about a little bit later, is just a disaster. So that win, whatever, that shouldn't even really hardly be like half a win at this point. But even in the losses, I think that what Shea has done as a solo offensive creator just is a good reminder of how special of a talent he is. And I just think in general with the social media era, we're just in a time where we don't necessarily always celebrate guys the way we should. And that goes to Luka and Giannis and Shea, and even like Jason Tatum when he played was healthy. But I just kind of wanted to give mention of just how dynamic and consistent and efficient of a scorer Shea is, because we've truly never really seen anything like it. And he's coming up on that Wilt Chamberlain 20-point game streak. I think I want to say he's 7 games away from breaking the NBA record all time for consecutive 20-point games. He's scored 20 points, I think, in 118 straight games. And so it's just night in, night out. It's almost always super efficient. His usage rate is high, but that doesn't really pass the eye test that much to me. He is a high usage player, has the ball up, but I never feel like he goes into full ball hog mode. I think he's always pretty good at getting other guys involved when they should be. OKC's roster kind of lacks for offensive creation right now, and really with Jalen Williams out has just done that a lot this season. But yes, that's really all I wanted to get to, is just along with, I think that he is the runaway MVP right now, and I think Jokic can only miss like 3 more games and then he's just out with the NBA's injury rules. And I haven't seen that he's like about to return from his injury. So I think he may just be on the brink of being disqualified, which is unfortunate because he really is, I think, one of the 15 to whatever. He's one of the best players that's ever played. And I think I'm in large part in support of the 65 game rule, but there is situations like this when you wish you can make an exception because it's just so unfortunate. But I just think that he's running away with that MVP, and I would truly be shocked if anyone else won it, barring Jokic comes back and doesn't miss another game.
Once again, it is NBA Observations. It is Calif Poncy along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this. And yeah, it's just right now, it's just not, there is no other choice. But there is a choice, and a legend brought it to my attention that, again, I was asking him how you would tier these players out. And I have to say, I agree with him after doing some really hard thinking about it. And right now, if you were to put, if he does qualify, Jokic in second, who would you put in third? Jaylen Brown, Luka Doncic, both have, in their favor, a lot that they could argue with. But Cade Cunningham, I think at this point in time, would be the guy I would choose. He mentioned it, and he mentioned he's put in that status, and I think the fact that they are now 1 game back behind OKC in the loss column as we speak about this is further proof that, this isn't a fluke from Detroit. They are playing well, and again, they can feast on all those bottom feeders at the bottom of the East for a while. They'll have a great season record, that's for sure, and a large part of that right now is because of Cade Cunningham, and being third place in the MVP voting is a really big jump for a really special player.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it before. I also Cade was at Oklahoma State the year before I went there, which is someone who worked covering sports all 4 years. And what has followed for Oklahoma State basketball really sucks because that was such a fun team. And really the last college basketball team I really rooted super hard and just loved watching and rooting for. And they got upset by Oregon State in the tournament. But so I've always had an affinity for Cade just because I watched him in college. We share an alma mater. Not that it doesn't matter. And I think that absolutely Jokic should still be second because he is the best player and he is so impactful in every way on offense, especially when he plays. But if he is disqualified, I think I agree that Cade should be second. In a similar vein to Shea, but he deals with it even when this team is healthy. There's just not a lot of offensive creation on that Detroit team. It's what I think is the only thing stopping me from just saying and thinking they're going to make it to the finals because they're so good defensively and Cade is so consistent. But if they could just maybe swing and get like a Michael Porter Jr. or in the high end like a Trey Murphy, someone like that would just be perfect, and I think makes them a real title contender. But for what Cade's doing for that team, that really you look around and it's like Jalen Duren has really improved offensively, and he's a really high level pick and roll threat. He honestly has done a good job of when he gets rebounds, Duren can put it on the floor and take it up, which is something he did not have even last season, and he's really added that to his repertoire, so that's helpful. But I mean, you're looking at like Tobias Harris and Ron Holland and Asar Thompson. Like Tobias Harris has his games, but other than that, like these are not very good offensive players. And like you said, they're battling for the best record in the league. They've been that. It's not like they're on a run. Like they've been this way the whole season. It's not a statistical aberration at this point. And Cade is the offense of that team. So I agree that he should be second. I think Cade should be All-NBA first team. I'm sure we'll do that at some point in the next few weeks, go over kind of maybe what those All-NBA teams are, but I think he should be on there. And then if I had someone in fourth or third, if Jokic doesn't play, I think I would probably Jaylen Brown and Luka. You're right. That's really tough. They're just right there in that same kind of level. I think I'd lean Jaylen Brown just because the Celtics are, at a higher place in their conference. And I think his is more unexpected, and that unfortunately, for better or worse, is a part of MVP. A lot of the time, like Jaylen Brown's going to get some momentum because no one thought this was going to happen. It's a big story, and this is just Luka. This is what Luka's been for 6-7 years now. So, yeah, but I love that Cade call. I think Cade's awesome. He's one of my favorite players to watch, and I'm just happy for any Detroit fans listening because you guys went through it for a long time, and you're a very historically relevant and smart franchise who doesn't necessarily, have a ton of experience down there in the cellar, and you were for 10 years, but now you have one of these franchise-altering guys who's going to lead you to a lot of wins, and I would guess at least 1 or 2 Eastern Conference championships, if not NBA championships. So congrats to the Detroit fans, and yeah, Cade's awesome. I couldn't agree more.
I can't take credit for it. I got to give credit to my friend Legend from I Got Next Sports Media. He was on NBA Observations with me last week, and he called it right there. I thought that was a great call indeed. So there you have it. Right now, our thoughts on the MVP race. Again, it could change. Injury to edge, like I talked about in the post game after the Chicago game today. If something happens to SGA, I think a lot of teams right now will be thinking in different terms, and the MVP race would be thought of in different terms. But as of now, you have to look at SGA as the MVP right now, even if Jokic comes back, because that month gone, unless they really tighten up the gap by the end of the season between themselves and OKC. But we'll see what happens. But in order to do that, possibly a team might need to upgrade. And some of those upgrades that a lot of these teams have been eyeing have gotten recent injury bug since our last conversation. AD hurt himself again. What a shocker. As the guy nicknamed Street Clothes hurt his hand. I saw him playing or practicing. They were showing footage of that during the Lakers-Dallas game on Saturday night. Yeah, it's great with one hand that he's doing so well with right now. He balked at surgery. It turned out that he went to the right. It's funny because if you get an injury in pro sports, sometimes you just want to go to the right doctor. One doctor will tell you, no, you need to do this. One doctor will tell you the same thing. And like, you know what? I don't want surgery. I want something else. I want to be told what I want to hear. Well, he found the specialist that told him what he wants to hear. So no surgery would be needed, but he's, I guess, 6 weeks away or something like that as far as he's concerned. Then you have the cases of Giannis Antetokounmpo, who suffered the dreaded calf strain. He is the latest. I feel like it's almost like like you get the flu as far as in NBA basketball. Like, maybe Austin Reeves breathed on Giannis or something like that. Now you got a calf strain. There you go. Because he's got the dreaded calf strain. And then, Ja Morant, also, who he played well in London. All right. Yes, he's back on the radar. There you go. All right. Get ready to trade 4 first-round draft choices for him. Oh, he got hurt himself with an injury. I forgot what that one was. That was like last week.
UCL on his elbow.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Mhm.
So he'll be out about 2-3 weeks. That's usually
Yeah.
what the standard for that is. So all these guys are going to be out after the trade deadline, but that doesn't preclude them from being a part of the trade deadline. Your thoughts on the impacts of those injuries and if it will impact if they're whether or not they are or are not traded.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like now this is what the NBA trade deadline always does, but this year it really felt I thought Giannis was maybe going to just hold off, but it was going so bad in Milwaukee. It felt like maybe he will get traded during the regular season because it's going to be such a combustible situation. And Atlanta made sense, and they happen to have that rights to that Milwaukee pick if it's really poor. So um, it looked like maybe Giannis was going to end up getting traded, or that was at least I thought becoming more realistic. And then he gets hurt, and then Anthony Davis. I don't know why him being hurt would impact his trade value. Like anyone who's trading for him should kind of just know the deal. And I do think you're typically a little hard on Anthony Davis, but you're very right in the fact where, I mean, did you guys think you're going to get Anthony Davis and he's going to play
I
all the
saw
time?
it close up for several
Yeah.
years, Caleb. And again, as a player, when he's out there on the court, he makes a huge impact. And last year at the beginning of the season, he was playing amongst the top 5 players in the league, but that was short-lived. And you've gotten little bits and tastes of it, but that's the problem. Over the course of the years after the bubble, you've only gotten little bits and tastes of it, and then he falls on the ground again. It's a matter of time. He falls on the ground and makes you nervous every time you watch him fall on the ground, Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right about that. His injury frequency is pretty crazy, but again, like that's not. I don't know if a team was going to bring in Anthony Davis and their doctors were like, "Did you know that this guy he has some stuff? He might get hurt here and there." Like everyone knows this is who Anthony Davis is, and so
And
I
he's
don't
not
feel like
getting
that.
any younger either.
What's that?
He's not getting any younger.
No, and he's going to want a big contract extension, and there's a lot of things that kind of make him a wishy-washy trade prospect. I agree, but he is really good. There were those discussions kind of floating around about him in Toronto and maybe Atlanta and some places like that I think would have made sense for him in a healthy way, but he's never that way. And then that situation was getting weird in general. He apparently, I think I saw Mark Stein report, he reported that he told the team that he wanted to stay in Memphis. He didn't want to go anywhere, but the team had put out that they're open to trading him. So just felt like a pretty toxic situation in general there with Ja. And sorry, I've had a bit of a cold this week. And I just thought that maybe I didn't know for sure if he was going to get traded or not. But the point is, all the big players who would have made this, even with these aprons that have been so restrictive for trading, the last 2 seasons you've gotten the Kevin Durant trade at the deadline, and then Luka Doncic got traded at the deadline. So big things have happened, and they've happened mid-season. And I thought the candidates were pretty clear this year about who that would be. Trae Young already got traded, I guess, but he's probably not even going to play this year. And so, yeah, I mean, I thought that those guys getting hurt really is just going to make it a pretty boring deadline because I don't necessarily think any of them are going to get traded now. I don't know what the mindset is with Anthony Davis, where you think that him being hurt now would change anyone's thoughts on him. Am I dead? I'm just not even here.
Are you okay? You're with me. I can hear you. You're good.
I'm good.
Can you hear me? Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
And so I don't know why that would impact his trade value at all. I'm sure it's going to. And then Giannis,
I lost him. His feed though was cutting out though at the very end. But once again, it is NBA observations. Hopefully, we can get Caleb back here. There you go. We can still hear you, my friend, but your Wi-Fi was starting to go like on the east side. But now 5 full bars, my friend.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So what's the last thing I said? What's the last thing I was legibly saying?
Well, you were going on Anthony Davis as far as, the realities of Anthony Davis. If you don't know what you're getting yourself into, then you just don't know basketball. It's just that simple.
Yeah, then Giannis has had these calf injuries are not really a pop-up thing with him. He already had a calf strain earlier this season. He's had calf injuries in the postseason before, so that's scary with kind of where we're at with calf injuries in the NBA right now. And then Jaw's just weird. If Jaw got traded tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised. If he signed an extension with the Grizzlies this offseason, I wouldn't be surprised. He's the weirdest one to me, but I just think that really put a damper on this trade deadline. Not to mention the Pelicans apparently have 5 untouchable players on their awful team, which you'd think they'd be one of the more busy teams at the deadline. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on those guys and what these injuries do for their trade value?
Well, I think they're pretty much where they're at. I agree with you. You pretty much know who they are at this point. If you are really, it's beauty in the eyes of the beholder type deal. With Giannis, obviously, of the three, he is probably the most marketable and the most desired of those three. Giannis on a team like San Antonio would be killer. It's funny because we were bringing it up the other day. It's like the Jared Jackson deal, like we talk about, and Triple J is also a name that could be out there as well if Memphis doesn't want to. Let's just say they have buyer's remorse over a guy that is paid like a 25-point player, but not playing like a 25-point player. If you get my drift on that one, but one of those guys, as far as Giannis or Triple J, just with all you have to do is to stretch your arms out.
Yeah.
And there you go. That's 14 feet plus of coverage right there for you. I mean, that's obviously the best sign, but he has seemingly been put as a puzzle piece everywhere with every team. And again, he does not want to be looking like the bad guy. So he said after the Trae Young deal, he said, I'm not going to ask for a trade. I'm not going to ask for a trade. But he's not saying he doesn't want a trade to happen, which again, he's ultimately going to put it on John Horst, who's, I believe, the GM of the Milwaukee Bucks. He wants to, and John Horst is just going to say, you know what? He's going to have to talk to John and said, guys, I understand what he means to this franchise. I understand what he means to business. I understand what he means to it, but he's getting older. He's in his early 30s, and we have to look to move him now. It's like the deal what I talked about on the post-game show Joe did. Something I had talked about years ago. When you have, as a California Angels fan, as I was at that time, and no longer because I just can't stand futility for that long, an Angels fan, you cannot have Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout doing what they do and doing nothing for you as a team overall. You're still sucking as a team. Trade them for a future wealth of assets going forward while they're still elite players. Of course, we saw what Shohei Ohtani has done, and we've seen what Mike Trout has done, who has gotten repeatedly injured and is no longer near that player he once was. Well, he's not worth anything near what he was. The same thing with Giannis. This is probably at the tail end of what you could get as far as his peak value of what he is, because it's all just going to start to drift a little downhill. He'll still be an elite player, but his value will start to drop a little bit season after season after season. And right now is probably the best time that you should be able to trade him because of getting back so many different things that are out there as far as is concerned. And teams now with OKC's slide may be seeing a little bit of a crack a window that Giannis could help. So of these three, I think Giannis is the one that probably should move.
Yeah.
But will he move? Because again, John Horst has to look like the bad guy. And if I was John Horst, I would walk to the owner and say, I want in writing, I'm not going to get fired at the end of the season. I have made trade after trade after trade to try and keep Giannis happy and keep Giannis here, even though it was against maybe my better judgment. But I've tried to do everything to keep him here. If I trade him, I want job security for the next 3 to 5 years going forward. And that's as simple as that. I want job security. I'll be the bad guy. I'll have Milwaukee hate me, but you've got to make it worth my while, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a perfect world, I absolutely agree. And if I was John Horst, I'd go try that. But I just think that they'd be oh, we'll give you an extension. And then clearly.
Oh, they'll fire him, but I got the extension. That's all he wants. He would want the extension.
The money. Yeah. I think that's smart, and I tend to agree. Yeah, I mean, Giannis, you got to think about his contract situation too. After this year, he has next year left on his deal, and so he's going to really have a lot of say in where he goes. So that's just kind of how this works, and it's not news, and everyone knows that he's kind of over and over again pointed to the Knicks as that team that he would like to go to. And if you just look at it from a basketball standpoint, I don't know what the trade is. Like, it's just. I don't know, Cat and Bridges for Giannis. Like, what does that do for you if you're Milwaukee? You're not good. I mean, so
No.
what's the point? So I just think that if I was the Bucks, I'd honestly just he's clearly trying to do the Kevin Garnett thing in Minnesota, where Kevin Garnett's like, I know I never want to request a trade. I want to be here. And then all of a sudden, oh well, there's an open he's willing to be traded. And then he was gone. Right. I mean, that's just kind of I feel like how inevitably this is gonna go. But yeah, I mean, if I was Milwaukee, I'd just try and be on top of it because if they were able to tank this year, which they're not far off of just being one of the top 6 or 7 teams in the lottery anyway, their way their swap works is they would get the second best of the New Orleans in their pick. Because in the third best would go to New Orleans, so they'd still have a lottery pick to be able to build with. And I mean, Ryan Rollins is an interesting young player. You have on a good contract, and Miles Turner's good, and he's expensive, but I imagine maybe you'd be able to trade him somewhere. Maybe I don't know. But I think there's a way. There's no way for this team to become a contender right now. There's no trade they can make. There's no assets. There's no way that they can make this what Giannis wants it to be. So, but I do think that because they did hit on a guy like Rollins and they've struggled with the draft, but Rollins is good and they lucked into that one. And so you at least have like a young player who I'm not saying he moves the needle or anything, but you got something. And then you have movable contracts with Kuzma's contract isn't good, but it's nearing its end, and you can probably move him for someone who wants to maybe give you back some more long-term money and get a pick or two back. Or Miles Turner, same thing. Guys like that. I think they have a path to having like a pretty solid start to a rebuild, but it really starts with this year you have to get your pick, or you have to get you or whoever's pick between you and New Orleans is lower. You got to make that pick as high as you can so you can still get that and get kind of a jump start on this in this awesome draft. And I just think I'd just trade Giannis. Someone out there wants Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's too good of a player. You're just not going to get a return that feels right for your arguably the best players ever played for your franchise for this long of a time, maybe the most beloved Buck of all time with how Kareem left there. And I just think if they were smart, they'd move him now. But they just seem to really be hell-bent on just holding on to the very end, squeezing every single last drop out of this. And I just think that whether they have him or not, they're probably going to struggle this season. And I'd rather just kind of know what my future is going to be.
Once again, it is Calif Poncy. Please go ahead and support him today on New Century Press and, of course, the Suave Report as well. Ja, again, buyer beware on Ja because of what he's done off the court or whatnot. But the fact is, it's just that he is a player who has a couple times this year looked like the player of old. But when you look at the overall picture, and we've talked about this before on this show, you and I, as far as what he is shooting overall, he isn't getting any taller, and he isn't getting more athletic. These are things that really helped him out in previous years, but as this league is going away from smaller guards, see Trae Young, for example, it's getting harder and harder for a smaller guard to thrive in this league. And I don't see many great fits. And we talked about this before, I think like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago about this when Ja, I just don't see a great fit. Yeah, he could play in Minnesota. Yeah, I mean, that's great. Or Portland or, a couple other places. Houston, he might be a good trend there, but doesn't really move the needle with what Ja is now. And do you think he'll ever get back to that Ja that we've seen over the course of a full period of time, not just once every blue moon, the way he's doing it right now?
No, I don't think he will. And that's why a guy like Russell Westbrook is so rare. And I don't know if we'll see a guy like him again because the nature of these really athletic players is they're like fine-tuned, high dollar cars. They're just gonna, if an ankle go like something, they're just really, if something goes and you're a really athletic small guard, you just age really quickly. And I mean, we saw that with like Allen Iverson, guys like that who were small but freakishly athletic and needed that athleticism. And that feels like it's already catching up with Ja. He just doesn't play with that like reckless abandon that he came into the league with, where he just would kind of like dive bomb the rim and guys wouldn't know what to do because no one plays like that. Like it's just such a rare. No one was very few were as athletic as he was at his peak. But I think he's talked about it. He's like, I think he had a quote where he's like, I don't really want to dunk anymore. Like things like that, where if he's not going to dunk, then what does he do? Like that's kind of that's what makes him special as an offensive player is his ability to penetrate, be so quick, so athletic, and get to the rim. And he just doesn't really seem to want to do that anymore. So unless he has like a Brooke Lopez-esque shooting random career thing where he becomes able to shoot out of nowhere, I just don't really know what there's going to be for him, especially in like 3 or 4 years. Now, he still does have it enough where he will have those games like the London game where he's just awesome and really plays that intensity and gets to the rim and finishes, and maybe he starts feeling it and hits some of his jumpers. But he's clearly the worst player of these three. I was more just referring with all three of them, like those felt like the three biggest names that were maybe not likely but could be moved at the deadline. And I just for all three of them to go down, the NBA is a headline sport. It's not really a sport that's even enjoyed by most in terms of like watching game by game. It's oh my God, Luka just got traded to the Mavericks. Everyone go, watch team whatever. And I just don't know what that is this year. It felt like it was just the universe was maybe forcing it to be honest there, but now that he's hurt, I just don't know who it is because Anthony Davis' situation is so weird. If he gets traded, it's not going to feel like a big deal. It's just like he wants traded and he's wanted traded and he wants a contract. And I mean, it's not like Anthony Davis being on a new team in 2 weeks would be that shocking. So yeah, I mean, I just think these injuries have really hurt kind of what is an important week for the NBA. And now, while it's normally overblown, we do usually have one or two big moves that do a lot. 2 years ago, their names weren't big, but Dallas getting Gafford and PJ Washington helped them get to the finals. And obviously last year, Luka, and the year before, 2 years ago, I think KD got traded to Phoenix. Like big things happen, and that's important for the NBA in terms of being viewable on social media and things like that. And I just don't know what huge NBA story is going to like take over on Super Bowl week. There's usually one where there's a 2-hour distraction from the Super Bowl prep because there's a huge NBA trade. And I just don't think it's going to happen this year.
Before we head on out, my friend, again, if you guys have thoughts out there on the trade deadline and any of these big names are going to be traded, or do you think that they're all going to stay in their same teams, please let us know right there in the comments below. But before we head on out, I did want to go ahead and mention to you something. Okay, because you asked me if I thought anything, and I didn't really have anything this week. I like your subject. I think we should really work with those. And then the league announced for the Stars, the Future Stars game, the lineups. And I don't really have an issue with the sophomore picks. I mean, you could tell me if you do, because I look at it and they're actually pretty good. When you look at it, none of those are really any surprising. Even Spencer at 53, that was, I guess, the one that kind of caught me by surprise as far as the 53rd pick last year. Pat Spencer, I believe, was the kind of one that caught me a little off guard. But here's the one that really gets me going as the rookie roster. I just don't think they did any real research into this. I just think they just picked, 1, 2, 3, 5, that's it. Just to 13, and that's it. I just called it a day. Do your damn research, because you and I, and I mentioned this with Legend, because I was going to mention this, but you couldn't make it last week. We blew it on our rookie prospects. We absolutely blew it. We forgot Caleb Love at Portland. And it's funny because it didn't hit me until I was watching the Lakers in Portland the other week. It was the week that you missed. And it was like they flashed on the screen that he had scored the most points of any rookie since Christmas. And I was just like,
yeah,
he's 24. Oh, that's right. He's an undrafted rookie. Anybody could have gotten him. Hello, Rob Pelinka. But that being said, again, how does a guy not like that not get on this roster? How does a guy named Maxime Renaud, who is the starting center on Sacramento Kings, not get on this roster? How? These guys, I mean, Diawara has played well for New York when given an opportunity. Richard in Golden State has played well an opportunity. But you guys they've got guys like Igor Demin. Why? Just because you felt sorry for Brooklyn blowing it on all 5 draft picks, you have to go, well, he's the one that's been starting the most games for Brooklyn. I guess we got to bring him over. I don't get it, Caleb. I absolutely do not get it and understand why the league still continues to blow it and not reward the players that actually deserve to be on this roster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't seem to have as big as a problem with it as you do, but I mean, looking at this two you brought up, right now should definitely be on over Yegor Jimin, and then I'd say Caleb Love has probably been better than Trey Johnson this season. But other than that, like I don't, Coward's on there. I mean, there's none on here that I think, other than those two, that I think should be taken off necessarily. But it is unfortunate. You'd like to see them reward a guy like Caleb Love, who's on a 2-way. I mean, maybe that even plays into, like, he's on a 2-way contract. Who knows? Like,
why? Why should that matter?
I have no idea. I don't think it should. I'm just saying because, yeah, I mean, that doesn't. Yegor Jimin is better at nothing than Caleb Love. Like, he's not better at anything. He's not a better player. He's not on a more winning team. There's no case for him to be on there over Caleb Love. So
if you did the draft today, you would redraft and choose Caleb Love over Igor Drummond.
Well,
I would.
Yeah, Jamin was always, he's just like a huge upside swing and Brooklyn. I mean, I don't know. I get what you're saying.
Right now,
I think for the average team, I think you're right. But I think for a team like Brooklyn or Washington, I just think the younger guy makes sense. But
Brooklyn,
yeah,
5 chances to get right.
My favorite one they drafted was Drake Powell, and he's just slowly but surely coming along. Keep an eye on Drake Powell. I like him. I like
the kid from Michigan. I'd say is the best of all those 3. Danny.
Yeah, I just don't know. I can just see the world where Drake Powell is like an impactful basketball player on a good team, and I don't know what. Like Danny Wolf is interesting, but he is bad at he's a bad defensive player.
I'm just saying that's the one of the 5 that has performed best of all. But even he has not got an argument to be in this lineup, and it just it irked me, and I'm just like, again, after last week's revelation. Or was it 2 weeks ago when I got that revelation about Caleb Love, and I'm just like, you're right. Because I've heard stories and I've seen footage and I've seen him play, but I did never put the 2 and 2 together that he is an actual rookie. And I'm just like, that's right. Yeah. He is. That should be his new name. That's right. He is, because he is a rookie. And I feel like, man, we're supposed to be the observers that knows all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh, I just blew it on Caleb Love. But be that as it may, again, I have issues with that. I just have issues. It's like as if you put Bronny on the sophomore shooting stars. To me, that's how irritating it is right now to have Love not in there and Drummond in there. Renaud, I could understand because yes, he is starting for Sacramento, but he's doing about 8-9 points a game. It's okay. It's nothing great, but he is starting for a Sacramento team right now. But the Caleb Love one, I've in multiple games in the 20s. Again, like I said, leading scorer since Christmas among rookies. That's a hard thing to do, especially for a guy that wasn't given the same opportunities right off the bat that a guy like Igor Drummond was. That's the one that irks me the most.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty ridiculous that Yegor Jamin got in over him. I agree with that statement. I'm glad that they didn't leave anyone super obvious out just for like there's some guys like Colin Murray Boyles isn't necessarily the flashy statistical guy, but if you are watching, he's clearly a very impactful, very conducive to winning. A good NBA player, and those guys kind of sometimes fall through the cracks on this because they're not as statistically,
He often has to play out of position because there are issues at the center spot, and I think he's more suited for a 4 spot instead.
Yeah, so I'm glad Murray Boyles got on, and then, I mean, this is just such a good rookie. I mean, you got like Con Knupples just keeps getting better every time we maybe think, well, he's going to hit a rookie wall. He just keeps getting better. He keeps staying right with Flag for that rookie of the year. Flag is even better than we thought he was going to be. Harper's slowed down a little bit, but I still think the long term, obviously, for him is incredibly bright. Fears is an interesting one to me because Fears, I fear, funny enough, could be, like a bad team, good stats candidate already. I don't want to put that on him and say he is because he's just a rookie and he's very
there,
very talented.
He's just there. Just gets like, 13, 14, nothing great, nothing bad. It's just
Yeah.
he's just there.
Yeah, and that's probably relatively promising for him, really, because with guys like that, he's undersized, he's skinny, or at least I haven't looked at his shooting splits lately, but he's not, necessarily seen as he wasn't seen as a positive shooting prospect coming out. So I'm glad that he's on there, because I'm just excited to watch him, just because I fortunately have too much going on. I have enough going on with my day to day that I don't make time to watch the Pelicans play. If I had, maybe I'd need to go find something else to do if I was watching the Pelicans on a regular basis. But then Edgecombe is just awesome too. This rookie class is just amazing. And then when you talked about you like what they did with the sophomores, I agree. They really rewarded some guys who they found later in the draft. Like looking at this list, Castle is the best player, and then I think second is a really interesting conversation between like Alex Sarr and Klingon and AJ Mitchell, and I think Bazelis is a tier below those guys, but it's an interesting second year class in terms of I think there's a lot of guys who are going to be on rosters for a long time, and like a guy like Jalen Tyson being on here shows that someone who was doing the sophomore rosters paying attention, because he's not some household name, but for those of us who pay attention, Jalen Tyson, he had that 37-point game a few weeks ago. He's been really one of the few really bright spots for Cleveland this season. He's really emerged into something. And then I'm a little lower on Cole Elware. I don't know. It's not fair to him. He doesn't necessarily get a chance to show all he can do. Like you've talked.
We talked about this. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you got that 28 and 15. Sweet, great job. You're back to the bench.
Yeah, and Spoelstra's talked about like not wanting to play him and Bam together, and it's like, well, then trade Cole Elware and get like a guy who like I'm sure you could get a really good player back in return, or even if you traded like a Cole Elware and Hero for Ja, like maybe that's an overpay for Ja at this point, but I don't think Hero has a ton of open market value either. So like because if you're not going to play them together, they're both centers, and they're probably Bam's the best player on your team. Ware's probably fourth after Powell and Tyler Hero, but he's also 20 and emerging, every year. So I think they did a good job on the sophomore roster, and that it's a hard decisions to make with that one because it's just not a great rookie class. But like Keyshawn George being on there is good to me. Klingon's really come along this year. He's shooting about 3 threes a game and making like 30% of them, which was a big swing factor for him as a prospect. If he could ever space the floor, he's going to be, because he's clearly awesome defensively. He's going to be a big, really good player if he's able to space the floor. And I wouldn't say he's spacing the floor at 30%, but he's at least willing to shoot them, which is a great first step for him. And 30% for him. If you'd have told me a year ago at the All-Star break last year that Donovan Klingon's shooting 3 threes a game and shooting 30%, shooting them with confidence, I would have said that's a great thing. So I think he's come along and he's really had a great year. And then AJ Mitchell is just, and this is going to sound like I'm homering it or whatever, unless you watch OKC every game, like OKC seems like they have just this bag of riches and one player just interchanges with the other one. He has become so important to what OKC does already. With especially these Jalen Williams injuries he's been dealing with all year, he has been so crucial as just an offensive creator. And when he's out of the lineup this season, OKC's 0-4. Like that's not obviously all AJ Mitchell, of course, but he does play a role in that. He's incredibly important on a winning team. And I think just watching Thunder, he's overtaken Cason Wallace in terms of like who's going to be a long-term piece of the team. I would have AJ Mitchell over Cason Wallace now, which you'd have told me 2 months ago I would have said was insane. But he's that good of a player, and he's awesome, and Sarr's awesome. And so, this sophomore class is coming along. I think you're maybe getting like one All-NBA candidate out of this class is all with Castle, but there's really good depth. But then, if we wanted to get into predictions for the Rising Stars game, this rookie team, other than Joman and Trey Johnson, like he's still fun. I get why they put him in. He's very fun to watch. He's an explosive scorer. But other than Joman, this team, I think everybody on this list, other than Joman and Trey Johnson, like and probably Fears, like if they made an All-NBA team at some point in their career, I wouldn't be floored. That's how good of a rookie class this is. So this is honestly going to be this is probably going to be more entertaining than the actual All-Star game, especially with all these injuries to key players, Giannis and Jokic, guys like that are going to be out. So this will probably be this and the 3-point contest, I imagine, will be the highlights, and then everyone will get excited for the dunk contest. It'll be terrible again. And the All-Star game is the All-Star game.
I'm glad you'll be watching it, my friend, and I'm hoping you'll enjoy it and have a good time indeed. Because I won't be. I won't be. I sat through so many, and then I don't want to go in the old man mode where you say, "Oh, back in my day, they used to compete hard and all that stuff." It's the truth.
With the All-Star game, yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It's definitely
And NBA TV is sometimes its own worst enemy because they'll flash back to the 1987 All-Star game or something like that, and you'll think to yourself, "Dang, why couldn't they play like that now?"
Yeah.
They don't.
I think I think the All-Star game is the biggest difference because I'm gonna say this as a voice of the youth here. I was watching over my winter break. I watched a couple like throwback old final. Like I watched Game 5 of the Blazers 76ers finals, I think, in 77. And then I watched one of the Bad Boys Pistons Blazers games too. I was with my friend who's a Blazers fan. We were watching Blazers games ever. And this physicality thing is made up. I'm watching this. The Bad Boy Pistons, who are spoken to me as you'd think they're playing football, with the way Lou Dort's talked about online, you'd think it's 5 Lou Dorts just out there like Roman Reigns spearing their opponent every play. And it's just not. There's still touch fouls. Clyde Drexler's still getting SGA whistles. Like this is a made up thing. I get maybe on a day-to-day basis it was a little more physical, but it's not this whole myth that we've been told as a U25.
I would say the East is a little more physical. I mean, before the hand check rule came into play, I think that no longer is available to the guys. I think the hand check rule is, but also this was before flagrant fouls is also as well, especially in the 80s when you talk about the clotheslining by Kevin McHale of Kurt Rambis.
Yeah, there's definitely like extreme
the bad boys of the 80s, and how they used to rough up Jordan and whatnot. Yeah. That was a real thing. That physicality was real, and they did get dirty, and they did get physical. They did, because they didn't have the flagrant rules, or they just either teed you up, teed you twice, and kicked you out of the game. That was it. Sometimes they wouldn't even tee you up, which was now if you saw there is a little bit more physicality again with the hand check rules as well being in place, as far
as Go ahead. I agree with the hand check rules is by far the biggest difference. I'm just saying, and there's definitely extreme scenarios like the Jordan rules were a real thing.
But we romanticize. Us old people romanticize. I'm not going to sit here and tell you differently.
I'm watching peak Bad Boy Pistons. Bill Laimbeer is like drilling threes, which was not told to me. Maybe Bill Laimbeer, out of an era guy. Maybe if he played now, we'd be talking about how awesome Bill Laimbeer was. But it's not like he was out there throwing punches at people all the time. But this is the finals. You'd think if it was ever going to be physical, and it would be in a close finals game, and there were some moments where it was like, oh, maybe that's, maybe I wouldn't see that today. But I think Clyde shot like 14 free throws. Like guys it's not as if these whistles were way different or if they were way more physical. There's definitely extremes. The Lakers Celtics thing where they actually hated each other obviously is like a different thing. Like those were actually, that's different than anything we see today. And then I need to go back and actually watch some of those Jordan rules games, but I don't doubt that was just a different thing that we just.
But there is some romanticism to it. I get you. And again, people talked about. In fact, Joe Sor on our show has talked about about players being better back in the day or whatnot. And again, I don't want to get in that argument with anybody because again, I have seen games since the 70s, and I have seen the league since the 70s. If you want to say the players are better in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. By all means, I can just tell you for a fact that because of certain ways that lifestyles or exercise or what technology, what have you, players are on average bigger, faster, stronger, and more athletic. Whether you want to say they're better, that is up to you and what your observations are. Again, I don't want to go into, because that's just leading you down a rabbit hole and an argument I really don't want to get into, because it's just, again, I just try to appreciate the league for what it is at each and every given moment. If you want to go ahead and say, oh, this player is better, Jordan's the best player I've ever seen. I know that Drip Show at Drip Show Shop on Instagram and Twitter sent me this, and the GOAT and whatnot. Michael Jordan's the best player I've ever seen. for what he had to play with against the Jordan rules, the hand checking, and what he had to deal with on a regular game by game basis, I would probably still say Michael Jordan's the best player I've ever seen. Is he playing against the best players of all time at that period of time? Again, that is up to you. But I'm just telling you what I think as far as the best player of all time. I think that Jordan could excel in any era of basketball. I just think he was that good. But if you think LeBron, or if you think another player is the best player in the league, that's fine. But yeah, it just, again, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole like the physicality and stuff like that as far as good. I just know at times it was more physical than what we see now, because players now says, okay, if you gave a clothesline to your player on the opposite team near you, you're gone for 7 games. It's just that simple. Here, you were maybe gotten a T. It literally was like that because the fact that they just didn't call things then like they do now. So again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I'll just leave it at that, Calif, before we head on out.
I think I agree. I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
There you go. No worries, my friend. And I had to get off my chest about your shooting prowess from my source. And thank you again to the source, indeed. But once again, it is Calif Poncy. Calif, before you head on out, what you working on with your latest stuff at the New Century Press and the Suave Report?
I'm hoping to be able to find some time to do something with the Suave Report by the All-Star break. This is just a super busy time with high school stuff that I'm covering. It's just state tournaments and see some seasons ending, some seasons not ending. It's just crazy. I'm just running around like crazy. So I haven't really had time to sit down and really focus in on any NBA stuff, unfortunately. But I hope to have something about Chet hopefully done by the All-Star break. And then other than that, I'm just kind of grinding along and, covering high school stuff up here and watching the Thunder and watching all the NBA teams I can when I can. And it's kind of what's going on.
Absolutely. Sounds good. I know that our next time we get together, we are going to be talking trades. And I kind of wanted to steer away from that type of getting in real trade talk, because again, that's going to be sucking up the whole bandwidth next week on the week of the trade deadline. So we could really get into that next week, plus whatever trending topics you want to talk about. Indeed. Once again, it is Calif Poncy. Please go ahead and check out what he's doing today at the New Century Press, and also when he drops that latest article on Chet Holmgren at the Suave Report, indeed. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that. It is Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this, and truly appreciate it. If you are a member, thank you so much for being a member, for getting this early. If you want to become a member, it's just $2.99 a month. That price ain't going up anytime soon. I also want to mention before we go, the secret that I've been trying to get. It's not so much a secret, but FanArc has hired me to go ahead and be the host of their channel as well. So I'll be doing a little bit of double duty. I'll be doing and dropping some short 15 to 20-minute videos. I would like to incorporate later on, and I've told them that I would like to incorporate interviews with guests, such as maybe Caleb here for the future on that as I go forward, because they're looking for more daily coverage of the Lakers. 15 to 20 minutes. If you guys want a little quick bite of what's going on with the Lakers in the coming days, head over to the FanArc Network on YouTube with the Lakers latest channel. That's what you're going ahead, indeed. So you might find a friendly face there in the not too distant future, and I'll just leave it at that. But for Calif Poncy, but I'll be here. This is my channel, so I got to be here as well. So yeah, don't fear. I ain't leaving anytime soon, because Google wants me here as well. So go ahead, but make sure you like and subscribe as well. It always helps out. But for Calif Poncy, for the New Century Press, and also as well the Suave Report, it's Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for watching this thing. And please, if you take a moment, 6 years ago, as I'm recording this, we lost 2 great individuals, along with a lot of other great individuals, in a tragic helicopter crash, Kobe and Gigi. So please remember them fondly as you go ahead and provide some NBA observations with us right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.